Do you have any more of those white buckets, those square buckets?
I might have some more of those.
I need all the square buckets always.
I see.
Always save them for me.
Well, we might have more of them.
Okay.
Well, good evening and welcome to Plum Bush Farm. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Jenny. Hi.
Yeah. So Jenny,
I wrecked your video.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
So
oh,
Jenny,
look, there's some bachelor's buttons.
Oh, cool. So I'm thinking, there you go, bachelor's buttons. We've been looking for different flowers that we planted in our pasture, or seeds that we threw out, I guess, to start popping up. So we like to walk this pasture in the evenings. It's kind of our couples therapy.
Couples therapy?
Yeah. So, Jenny, I was thinking about starting a new thing on our channel where we would just go for walks in our pasture. Mm-hmm. Discuss various random topics. Maybe even topics that our viewers would suggest for us.
Oh. Well, that might be interesting. Or boring, I suppose. We might be boring.
We might be very boring. So it is 9 o'clock at night, almost, and it is 90 degrees out here. And I just want to turn this around so you can see what we're seeing as we walk toward the sunset. It is beautiful out here. Well, it's kind of hot. Other than that, it's beautiful.
It's normal Nebraska summer.
That's true.
Only to be expected.
Yep.
Far more depressing than Wisconsin summers.
You can tell Jenny's originally from Wisconsin. Well, let's step over this fence without getting shocked.
Actually, ever since we got animals, summer is not nearly as oppressive to me as it was when we first got married.
Yeah, that
because
makes sense.
Now I have more motivation to go outside and just do stuff. So
yeah,
summer's not too bad. There are so many grasshoppers in here.
Another thing that has made a big difference, I think, is this 4 acres of pasture we're walking on right now. We did not own that when we first moved to this place. There's a bumblebee. Look out. Don't step on it.
Oh yeah, I won't step on it. I'll just leave him alone. He's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not actually scared of bumblebees.
So the topic tonight is our pasture. We have approximately 4 acres of pasture here that we were able to add to the property about 3 years ago. 2 years ago, we rented a drill from the local place where we got our seed, and we drilled in our pasture seed. So our pasture is broken up into about 1/3 warm season native grasses, and the other approximately 2/3 is cool season grasses, which are brome and orchard grass with some clover mixed in.
I remember the day we did that, and you wanted me to step off like half of this area, so I did, but I think I accidentally on purpose made sure the cool season was bigger. Well, it was accident, but I wanted to make sure to err on the side of the cool season having more.
Well, and actually
I'm not sure why I was so set on that either.
Well, actually that's probably a good thing, because the warm season grasses can carry us through the summertime when it's real hot, but the bulk of the pasture does come from the cool season grasses, like the bulk of the feed that the goats eat.
Yeah, that's true.
So here in the warm season half, which we just fenced the goats off of this portion last, a couple days ago.
Saturday.
In this portion, we have a lot of trefoil. All the yellow stuff that you see blooming is bird's foot trefoil. And then the purple stuff that you see is vetch. And that vetch we didn't actually plant. It was kind of seeded in here with some, there was some wheat seeded in here when we bought this property. And it was kind of in with that wheat. And it's just reseeded since then. The goats really like the vetch in the fall because it puts on these pods that look like, they look a little bit like a pea pod.
Here, I'll pick one.
Yeah.
Right there.
Lift it up a little bit. It's hard to find. There we are. Yeah. So they look like these little pea pods, and as they dry down in the fall, the goats come along and sniff all those out.
They crunch them down.
Yeah. During the, like this time of year, the trefoil just takes off and really does tremendously, grows like crazy in here. The goats eat it, right?
Yeah, well, I think they've eaten this down considerably because it's not near as big as it was.
Yeah.
It's really like,
true.
it's past its big growth spurts.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, you mowed this off though here, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We were a little bit concerned that we were getting too much growth from the trefoil and that it was actually going to be so thickly carpeting the ground that we wouldn't have our native season grasses coming through it this year. And I don't think we really needed to be worried about that, but I did mow this down as kind of a test area. And then over this way where it's just a little bit taller, I didn't mow it. And the idea was just to be able to see if it made any difference how much native season grass came through later on. So over here where I didn't mow it, we do definitely have some patches of taller trefoil, but it's not a lot different, I don't think. So we're just getting to real hot summertime, and the native season grasses are starting to come through. But over the next month or so, we should see a lot of native season growth out in this area.
You know, the goats have been just over there in just the grass.
In the cool season.
Yeah, in the
brome,
cool season.
orchard grass, yeah.
Their milk production is doing just fine over there. I thought maybe since it was just mostly grass instead of the trefoil and stuff, that it wouldn't be quite as good a forage, but actually they're doing really well on it, even though it's hot.
Yeah.
I'm actually really impressed how well they're doing in this
Yeah,
heat.
I'm kind of surprised too, because tonight the 4 goats that we milk in the evening had their normal half gallon of milk. It was pretty much just exactly what they've been having.
Yeah.
Let's walk over to the edge over here. Around the outer edge of the pasture, I seeded in some taller grasses, which are also native grasses. So native grasses to the Midwestern prairie here in the U.S. where we are in Nebraska. Native grasses would be big blue stem, little blue stem, and Indian grass. Those are probably the big 3, I would say. And then we also have western wheatgrass, and there's a couple others.
Grass of some kind.
There's a kind of a switchgrass, and there's that blue grama grass. We call it eyebrow grass because it puts on a head that just looks like an eyebrow. So this is the outer border of the property, and this is where the taller season grasses are. The trefoil has not done as well in here, or else it wasn't seeded in quite as thickly. I'm not sure which. But these tall season grasses or these taller warm season grasses are definitely much higher than the grasses out that way.
This is switchgrass right here.
Yeah, that's the switchgrass. It's got that fine head, just starting to head out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got this stuff, which is a western wheatgrass. So it's always fun. I just enjoy it, I guess. It's fun to come out here in the summertime when all these grasses are starting to head out and try to figure out what's what. We've probably got about 6 or 8 different varieties of grass on this whole property, I think.
Probably, yeah.
And then we've got some clover and the trefoil, which is both clover and trefoil are legumes. And actually out here we've even got a little bit of alfalfa that just kind of managed to come along in the cedar, I think, when we were planting this. There's There's a lot of grasshoppers out here.
Yeah, it's really very grasshoppery.
Yeah.
There's ladybugs. Look, there's ladybugs all over on these wheatgrass heads.
Sure enough. There they are. Ladybugs, grasshoppers.
Crickets. I hear a cricket. Is that a cricket? Or is that a frog?
It could be frogs. I'm not sure.
How can I tell? Yeah, Gabe, I just like, okay, so what is it that grows? So the side oats really starts to go after it eventually in here.
Right, yeah.
We
do have
just
side
haven't
oats. That's
seen
another
them
way.
yet. But I read that June and July is when they start heading.
Yeah.
So, for some of this, with this, what's it called?
Trefoil?
The trefoil. You might not even see all that many leaves before you start just to see heads popping up
Yeah, that
of
could
the grass.
be. That could be.
But
So if you're not aware, legumes are plants that put nitrogen back in the soil. So the bird's foot trefoil, the alfalfa, the sweet clover, and there's some sweet clover back up that way, and the regular clover, I guess. What about the vetch? Is that a legume?
yeah,
So all of those are legumes which put nitrogen in the soil for the grass, so that's really good.
and they're
And they also are
probably
just
a higher protein forage
right. Higher,
in general than the grass.
yeah.
Although I think brome at its peak would be comparable, probably.
So the goats are naturally browsers. They love trees,
Yeah.
of course. If they get a chance to go eat tree leaves, they will do that. But they like to just wander the pasture, picking off a little bit here and a little bit there. That's just their modus operandi as they go around the pasture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just saw some lightning.
Maybe
It's really still out here, and about 90 degrees, and very sultry weather. North of us, there's a couple big storms, but I don't think anything's going to hit us. We would be glad to get a little bit of rain. Everything's looking really nice, but we could sure use some more rain right now.
Mm-hmm. I think that I'm barefoot, so going barefoot is sometimes painful, but it's definitely worth it. Right, Gabe?
Well, my feet are not barefoot. I don't really believe in that.
I was going to say about the goats today, when I went out to make sure they had water, the one doe was up by the water with her kids, and I don't think that she knew for sure where the rest of the herd was. Like, she knew they were out there, but they weren't talking to her, and she didn't really want to go wandering out there by herself. But eventually she got her two kids to follow her and took off into the great unknown, because they cannot see.
Yeah, it is
each
amazing.
other.
This brome is well over waist high, almost shoulder high to me in places. And the whole herd can be out here, and you can be 20, 30 feet from them, and you can't see them.
If we had Saanens or Nubians, then we'd probably be able to see them.
Right, yeah.
But they're too short. Can't see them.
Yeah, it's deceptive because it seems like you should be able to see them out there, and you just can't. I think people driving by on the road, which is right out there, probably just don't even know that we actually have animals out here. They probably wonder if we just go and put fences up for the fun of it or something.
Maybe so.
Well, I haven't spotted any new wildflowers other than that bachelor's button that you found. Now this is kind of interesting. This hot weather, so the yellow stuff you see here is sweet clover. And early in the spring, or I guess not early, but over the last month or so, the sweet clover just took off and grew like crazy. And it seemed like the goats were just going to really struggle to keep up with it. But the goats love it, which is good because it's a pretty ambitious plant.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it looks like it's not really trying too hard anymore.
No, it looks a little bit worn. It still smells good.
Yeah, it smells
There's a reason it's called
lovely
sweet
out here.
clover.
Yeah.
It smells really sweet.
I wish you could smell this. You know, there's times when we're showing the bucks that you can just be grateful you can't smell it, but
Yeah.
when, times like this it would be nice. It was such a nice evening out here. Okay, so we got some flowers here.
So that flower is a Mexican hat. It's a type of cone flower, but that's the common name for it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, its hat gets taller and taller the more.
Does it really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think that the seed head keeps kind of growing.
Up higher.
Seems like it.
It's kind of a cool looking flower.
It is, and that's a perennial. I think it's a perennial. It should just kind of live there unless, of course, the goats decide to eat it, but we don't really ever let the goats be out here.
Yeah, we keep the goats away from the edges of the pond. We have a few trees around here that we would like to have grow. This is a poppy, and these poppy flowers are really beautiful, but they're really fragile. They come out and they bloom, and on a really hot day like today, they're pretty much done. I'm guessing in 12 hours or so.
This right here, this is our nemesis. Is that how you say that word?
Nemesis.
This is our nemesis. This is a terrible grass.
Foxtail.
Giant foxtail. There's other
Horrid stuff.
types of foxtail. In fact, this might also be a foxtail.
Yeah, there are various kinds of foxtail for sure.
The foxtails are notorious for getting stuck inside of like a goat's mouth or throat or cheek, and then it can make an abscess. It's very painful. I had one kid got an abscess one time, but it was just by its jaw. It just went away then. I had a doe that I sold. I sold her, and she got one of those, and the person was pretty worried, but they tested it, and it was nothing, thankfully.
Yeah.
This is also a native flower, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
this
is that
Dame's rocket or dragon
Dragon's
head?
head, I think it's called. You can kind of see why it gets that name. Honestly, that one is not like my favorite. It kind of just looks like a weed to me.
I think we're saying the wrong name, and I can't figure out why I think that.
Yeah, I
There's
don't
some
know.
more Mexican hats.
Yep. Down there.
Amaranth?
And these heads right here are orchard grass that is kind of headed out, gone to seed. Orchard grass is really nice grass because it will regrow. When you cut it, it will take off, and you can actually put it in with alfalfa, they say, and get 4 cuttings, and it will pretty much just regrow right alongside the alfalfa. Brome grass, on the other hand, which a lot of people around here use, and we have that over in our cool season grass. But the brome grass, it will not regrow very much at all if you cut it back.
It grows in cool season, so it goes dormant in hot weather. Yeah. And then it will start to grow again in the fall some.
Mm-hmm. So over here is a dirt pile, just some leftover dirt, and you can't see that because of all these dark green weeds. And these dark green weeds are amaranth, which is a very common native weed here in Nebraska where we are. And the farmers around here really hate this weed. The reason we don't have any of it out there in the pasture is because last year when it tried to grow, the goats just ate it all off because they love it. So the reason they haven't eaten this off is because we have our pasture fence just on the other side of this little hill. And we maybe ought to think about bringing the pasture fence around behind it so they can eat that stuff off.
They would like it.
It's actually good stuff
for them, too. Very good for them. It's high in all the stuff. Protein, calcium. I think it's high in calcium.
Okay.
And the seed heads are high in protein. Mm-hmm. Look, here's some wheat. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
We could make
so this is like some leftover involuntary wheat from the wheat that was in this property when we added it to our land. We've had a little bit of that coming back here and there.
We could go make some flour.
Yeah, we could, I suppose.
Look at this, Gabe. This has to be like big blue stem or something.
Yeah, back here on this side of the pond, we're kind of on the back side of the pond, there's some pallets my children were studiously working at making a,
Their
I don't
cousin
know,
was
a
helping
playhouse
them.
or something
That's
one time.
Matthias's fault.
Yeah, anyway, they left him there. Yeah, we've got.
Look,
So
tree.
this tall. Oh wow! I didn't even realize we had a nice cedar like that growing out here.
I didn't know he was still alive.
Wow, we had such a
It's
dry
looking
summer
good.
last year. It's just kind of a surprise to see some of this stuff alive. This stuff we would have thought maybe, like this is stuff that we would have thought was maybe going to be giant foxtail, but I see heads coming there.
That's switchgrass.
So that's good stuff.
Nice.
We like that.
Now we have a tree over here that we need to check on every now and then. Now
Yeah.
goats are very naughty, and can you believe it? They got one time, the fence went down, and they had everything they could possibly think of to eat out here, but oh no, they found a tiny little tree and ate all the leaves off. Here it is.
Yeah, a little
It looks
cottonwood
beautiful
tree, and
though.
It is
It's doing
great.
fine.
Oh, let me see if I can knock that grass back a little. There we go. Little cottonwood tree out here by our pond. Yeah, it's looking really nice.
Yeah.
That's the challenge if you want to have trees and goats. It is tough to make that happen because the goats like the trees too. Well, I think we've pretty nearly made the circle and our light's starting to go away. Don't really see any new flowers out here.
There's some
to point
black-eyed
out.
Susans.
Oh, some black-eyed Susans, sure enough. Sure enough.
Here's Miles's thingamabob. Yeah, we definitely need a rain.
We need rain, yeah. We've had, this summer, we've had one rain that was more than an inch. Every other rain has been less than an inch. And that one rain that actually was like an inch 40 or something filled the pond. So we need those big rains every so often if we're gonna keep watering our pond. And this pasture is built on kind of low ground, so it naturally will fill up in wet years. So it's good ground to be pasture. For many years it was farm ground, and that just was not the best use of it, honestly.
There's a lightning bug.
Sure enough, got lightning bugs or fireflies, whatever you call them.
Ah, you kicked him.
Oh, I didn't mean to. Well, thanks for coming along on a little walk in the pasture with us. I hope you enjoyed it. If this looked like something that was fun and you'd like to suggest something that you'd have a question about our little homestead or our goats or anything else, and you'd like to suggest that in the comments, we'll sure think about it. And if we know anything about it, we'll probably talk about it. And every so often we talk about things we actually don't know anything about. So we might anyway.
Like what?
Yeah, most of us just go through life doing our best to pretend we know what we're talking about until we actually do.
Sometimes you're pretty sure you know what you're talking about, or I am. But then 5 years down the road, I realized that maybe I didn't actually quite know what I was talking about.
Yeah, happens.
But with this goat thing, we've had goats over 5 years now and stuff. I didn't, like when we first started out, I was like, how do you know when your goat is, when you're milking your goat, how do you know when you're done milking? Like, how do you know for sure you got the milk?
Right.
That was like one of my biggest questions when I started milking. And now that just is kind of funny to me, but it was a real question that I had.
Right, yeah.
So even questions like that are valid, actually.
Sure.
Something you learn from doing.
Yep. All right, well, we made it back to the pasture gate, so we're going to hang it up here.
We should say hi to Pepper. People like to say hi to people's
there's
puppy
Pepper.
dogs.
Pepper is our faithful, somewhat over-energetic blue heeler. But he's a pretty good dog. And fortunately, he doesn't try to mistreat the goats. Say hi, Pepper.
He needs to scratch his ear.
He's got to scratch his ear. Oh, we've all been there. Okay, that's it for tonight, folks.